A few days ago, I was having work done on my house. Having agreed a contract with the builder, I found it rather odd that 2 days before he was due to finish, he came to me with an amended contract, saying more repairs were needed and that I better fork up the cash unless I wanted my newly tiled roof to crush me during the next soft easterly wind. However, if I had a penny for every time this guy tried to change our contract, I would have many pennies. So I turned to him and in the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger said, "I live to see you eat that contract, but I hope you leave enough room inside for my feast because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and rip out your spine!" Needless to say, no spines were removed on that occasion. But it did leave me rather stressed. So, with want to unwind, I sat down in front of a nice DVD. Blade, to be precise. While watching, I had a bit of an epiphany. Needless to say, it hurt. Let's face it, vampires have not been scary for a long time. Even if you find yourself fresh out of steaks, garlics, sunlight and buffies, vampires don't seem to offer as much of a scare as they once did back in the oldie days of yesteryear. It's hard to say when they lost their bite, but I'm sure we can all point to a few contributors. Some people just aren't happy until they've turned the fanged, blood-drinking, soulless reapers of the night into floppy-haired, shiny-whiny high school musical dropouts who are just as likely to give you a "nobody understands me" look as they are to rip your jugular open. Sadly, this is a view held by many, and quite rightly so. But fighting the good fight, showing that vampires are still the true lords of the dance, I mean night, is Warhammer Fantasy. Now, I'm not really a fantasy player, but from having a nosy around, it is clear that Games Workshop have tried their best to keep the vampire counts nice and toothy. Through having various bloodlines, the vampire is given a much needed shot of Adam. Sure, there are still the traditional von Karsteins, but we also have the Nietzschean blood dragons, the alluring Lamians, the magic-infused Necrarch, the Berserk Strigoi, and the scarce but lovely Sartosa. My point here is that Games Workshop really put their back into making all of their races vicious and in your face. And this is something they do very well. Lest we forget, the repulsive and bile-inducing pandemic that is Twilight is also responsible for turning this into this. And again, we are left with a once awesome creature of the night reduced to the condition where it is less threatening than a dung beetle. You'd be forgiven for thinking there isn't an awesome werewolf to be had anywhere anymore. And yet, look at Space Wolves. If ever there was a lichen-like race that truly puts the fear of Fenris into your heart, it is these bad boys. So, to answer the age-old question, are you Team Edward or are you Team Jacob? I say, Team Sanguinius, baby! Given that Games Workshop products are mostly bought by us, the geeks, it's a real show of character that Games Workshop has never ever sold out and just gone ahead and made something silly like a giant robot race to kowtow to the Transformers fans or an anime race to get the Gundam fans on board. Oh, wait a minute. The Tau. How could I forget? Well, I better eat my words and wash it down with some humble pie because there they are, staring at me right in the face with their big, huge pulse rifle cannon sausage weapons. The Tau often get a bad rap, and if you think they were created to get simply another wing of the nerd club into 40k, then you could be forgiven for feeling they're a bit out of place in an otherwise very much loved and rich lore. I personally do not hate the Tau. I love their big guns, and those Crisis battlesuits certainly do put the B in subtle. But I do think that the chaps at Games Workshop did just want to expand and saw the best way to do that was to create a fairly, but not horribly, generic race to encourage new gamers to join in. And is that a bad thing? I don't think so. And why do I think that? Because it worked. I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as the Tau come on the scene, the game becomes massive in the US. And before you know it, we get Fire Warrior. And since people bought that, we get Dawn of War. And since people bought that, we sadly got Ultramarines. And because people bought that, we're going to get Space Marine. And if people buy that, then, well, we'll probably get another 5 Space Marine games, but hey-ho, I'm not complaining. And I do think that to some extent we can thank our little, blue, munchkin friends, the Tau. Although the main reason that I don't really like the Tau is because running across a battlefield shouting, "For the greater good," is nowhere near as cool as running across a battlefield shouting, "Do you know what I mean? But, as a great man once said, each to his own. I'm sure that Games Workshop will make other choices in the future that don't keep everyone happy. However, we can sit comfortable in the fact that no matter how many changes they make to codexes and tactics, army looks and lore, it's still way cooler than Twilight. Woohoo! Until next time, peace.